Well, thanks for joining Sam and myself. We are here to talk you through everything you need to do, ready ahead of the big kickoff in the NFL this week. For those of you who don't yet get into the NFL, or you're a bit like me and a bit of a novice, Sam is the perfect guide to talk us through everything you need to know about the upcoming season. Sam, how excited, how pumped are you for the return of NFL action?
I couldn't be more excited. I've got two sports I love: football, aka soccer as they call it in America, and football as in NFL. And just having both back at the same time now, it's my weekends are going to be very very busy. But it's so good it's back, and I think it's getting more and more popular each year, which is brilliant. People in the office, people I bump into talking to me about it, and on social media, there's like a great community of fans as well. So it's just a great place to be.
Do you think people like myself getting involved that perhaps, I'd be truthful, I came into the sport probably from a bit of a betting angle on a Sunday night, tended to have Mondays off because I worked a lot of weekends and I kind of was quite curious about it. And I must say the red zone is the easiest way, isn't it? Would you recommend that as a fan getting involved, kind of a good starting point on a Sunday night at 6 o'clock, flick it on, watch a load of action and just see if it grabs you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a bit of a attitude I think we have in the UK to the game and to US sports in general. There's this whole like, oh, it's rugby but for wimps because they wear pads kind of thing that you hear every now and again. It's just not true. But I think everybody I know that's kind of had that opinion and actually sat down in front of Red Zone, giving it a chance, ends up kind of falling in love with it because it is such a good game. I think Red Zone in particular, if you'd have sat in front of that from 6 p.m. on a Sunday, I mean, it's so easy going, non-stop action. And if you like to bet as well, there's plenty of kind of betting opportunity with that as well. So it's just a great way to get into the sport, I think.
Fantastic. We're going to go through loads of different angles in this show. Plenty of value to be found as well, potentially from Sam's tips. We've got the Super Bowl winner. We'll have a chat about that. Have a chat about MVP, Rookie of the Year, offense and defense, comeback of the year, which I'm really intrigued to hear more from Sam about. But we'll kick off by talking about the season opener. And Sam, just give me a bit of tradition. Is it a case that it's the defending champs that effectively open the season? When's this game being played? The Rams at Buffalo Bills.
It's the other way around actually. It's Buffalo Bills at Rams, but it is customary. The champion always kind of opens the season, and this is just a brilliant game. They always kind of make it's two good teams playing. They'll never kind of start off with an easy game for the reigning champions. And it's the Bills, arguably the team to beat against the Rams, who came off the brilliant Super Bowl last year. And I mean, this game on a Thursday night, I think it's 20 past one of those probably worth staying up for. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Lots of offense, lots of great play, I think. And yeah, it's a very close game as well, which makes it extra exciting, I'd say.
With NFL betting, Sam, we traditionally see a lot of the spreads, if you like. Obviously, this game, I've just literally priced it in there for you guys at the bottom correctly this time round at the Rams. How do you approach betting on NFL as an individual game, Sam? Do you tend to ignore the more traditional spreads and bet X to beat Y, or do you like to try and beat the points?
So quite often I like to pick an underdog and back them on the money line, which is I guess that's the American version of saying 1x2, as we'd call it in over here. So back like an underdog to win or maybe double up. And you could generally point totals over under. They're really fun to do kind of a little acca on those. But if I'm absolutely honest with you, betting results, betting spreads, as enjoyable as that is, for me, I like anytime touchdown scorers or any of the player props because that's where I think the value is considerably better. And I'd say across my betting career, if you like, that is where the bulk of my big wins have been in anytime touchdown scorers because I also think it's a market that they might not respond to news as quick as possible. And quite often you can get an edge that you can't get anywhere else. So I think those markets are great. The player props are great. You could bet on players to have X amount of yards or whatever. But the great thing about anytime touchdown score is you sat there watching Red Zone. You never know, your guy might pop up. And the amazing thing that happens is sometimes you do an acca of like four guys. You've only got one of them in and you're thinking, it's 8:30. You're thinking, this is done. I've got nothing. And then quick fire, different games around the league they land, and that's just such a good feeling. So yeah, for me, those are the angles I go for because I think there's more value, and generally it's just more fun too.
Farley's used to seeing my Ian Beale meme, I've got nothing left before half time, and a lot of our betting related chat when it comes to NFL. But you're right, it can turn on a sixpence. It's absolutely great fun. We'll return to one of the most popular markets, anti-post now, which is, of course, the outright winner market. The Bills, who Farley's touched on, 6-1 market leaders. Next in is the Bucks at 7s. Kansas City Chiefs, team that I've got a very special place for in my heart. I love watching them play 10-1. Packers 10-1, Rams 11-1, Chargers 14s, San Francisco 16s, and the Bengals, I think, around a 20-1 shot. I couldn't fit on the caption because I ran out of characters, but I thought were well deserving of a mention. Sam, I'm not going to necessarily ask you directly for a tip here, but do you think the market's in the correct order? Some quite tight prices ahead of the two at the front.
Yeah, so I think the Bills, realistically, good defense, good offense. They've shown they know how it is, know how to win. They are rightly the favourites. I think the Buccaneers, second favourites, obviously Tom Brady, the GOAT. We all know about him. Even if you're not a fan of the NFL, you've heard the name. And realistically, are they the second best team in the league? No, not in my eyes. But they are in a conference that has lost a lot of quality recently. And generally, I'd say the better teams are all in the one conference, the AFC right now. So I think that means the best team in the NFC is automatically better just by the fact they're going to have a far easier path to the Super Bowl, to be honest. Chiefs, brilliant. But as much as I love Mahomes, I love watching these guys play. The loss of Tyreek Hill, whilst it is only one player, does concern me. Who's going to get those targets? Is Travis Kelce going to be doubled up on all the time? It concerns me. I wouldn't bet on them personally. Packers, I think they've got a great defense, but I do worry about, again, Devontae Adams has left, so there is this hole on offense. Can the guys they've got in, the rookies, live up to the hype early and do something? I would probably bet against that, but the defense is superb, so they have a chance. But for me, at the top of the market, I don't want to go anywhere near these guys. I think in that sort of second rung down of teams, that's where you've got a few teams that I think are well worth the money. And there's 3 here, actually, that I think are worth a couple of quid. And I mean, you could either put a bet on all 3 and you're still going to make quite a lot of profit if they win. And that would be the LA Chargers. I think they are a team that have been trending upwards for a couple of years. Justin Herbert looks like he could be the NFL's next great QB. You've got the San Francisco 49ers. They've been resolute on defense for a long time now, and they have Kyle Shanahan, one of the best defensive minds around. And they somehow have this ability of turning players that might not have had the best kind of scouting reports before going pro, or these also-rans. They could turn them into absolute unstoppable stars. So for me, they're a great team to bet. And the Ravens, Baltimore Ravens as well, 20-1 you can get them at. And they are a pretty fearsome team. I think Lamar Jackson's, I think, one of the best players in the league. But I mean, even if you allow me to speak a little bit longer, go slightly further afield, further back, if you want a real dart throw,
here we go.
At 27-1. So it's not too much of a dart throw, I guess. But the Indianapolis Colts, they were brilliant last year. They got Jonathan Taylor, incredible running back. And now for the first time in a couple of years since Andrew Luck left, and I don't think Phil Rivers was very good at the end, so I'm not including him. They have a proper quarterback in Matt Ryan. But for me, they have the best offensive line in football. And I think we talk about quarterbacks, we talk about running backs, we talk about receivers. When it comes to actually winning games, the team who have the best offensive line will score the most amount of points most of the time. So as long as your defense is pretty capable, and the Colts have that, then I think, the sky's the limit for this team because they've got such good ability on the offensive line. So I'd say them at 27-1 of my outsiders.
All right, well, let's just throw a few teams at you that we haven't mentioned that are bigger prices, just because it's a few that I want to touch on. Finally, the Raiders moved to Vegas. Obviously, last year they had a mixed campaign, didn't they? There was a little bit of controversy around them off the pitch. Do you think, obviously, I kind of like the idea of this Vegas side, like the tickets, they seem to be gold dust, don't they? They're doing do you think they're making moves in the right direction?
Yeah, I think so. And they do have a lot of talent. Derek Carr at quarterback, I think, was a guy who, for a couple of years, people were thinking the Raiders have got to draft a new QB. He's not quite good enough. And I'd say this last season, 2 seasons, I think he's really kind of put the doubters to bed. This guy is like a franchise quarterback to me, and he has been good. I think they probably lack the quality to go all the way, but they're a team that can surprise people for sure.
And another one I want to throw at you is my precious. I adopted them because they were a car crash of a team. They have continued to be, is the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, it's about time Dolphins fans got behind him. And Miami kind of have broken the bank, haven't they, to make sure he's got the right weapons around him.
Yeah, they've done some pretty impressive business. They've got Tyreek Hill, came over from the Chiefs. So they've got one of the most electrifying kind of receivers in the game. They've obviously Jalen Waddle, they drafted last year, the other receiver there. So that's arguably probably one of the most, I mean, we've not seen him in action yet, but that's arguably one of the best kind of 1-2s available right now in the league. And Tua is an interesting one because his accuracy is phenomenal. Like in terms of all the statistics, it's brilliant, but there are questions about his arm strength. Can he get these deep balls going? I think how Tyreek is used is going to be fascinating. For me, they have a good defense as well. For me, I think the best price you can get is 49-1. If you're a Dolphins fan, I think that it probably is worth chucking a couple of quid on just for the sweat. You'll enjoy it. But I also, if you're not a fan of the Dolphins, I wouldn't be putting the mortgage on that one.
I'm gonna have a tenner, Farley. But one more question before we move on from the Super Bowl category. I know you've picked out a couple of big prices, but I know you've got the price grids in front of you there. Of all the teams that are 100-1 or bigger, there must be one in there that you think, I wouldn't lay that 100. So you're looking at the likes of the Panthers, the Jags, the Detroit Lions, who I really like the Detroit Lions. I've got a weird liking for them. I think they were a bit unlucky last year, you got the Giants, the Jets, the Bears, the Hawks, Atlanta Falcons, and you can ignore the Houston Texans. We'll just put a line through them. But any one of those 3-figure prices that you think, God, you know what? That's just a shade too big.
Do you know what? None of them are going to win the Super Bowl, but this little group of teams there's a few of them that I think will do better than they're expected to do this year. And for something like, we might talk about this later, kind of win totals, you always get these markets, over under 6.5 wins, whatever. There are a few teams that I think could do better than the bookies think. The Detroit Lions would be one of those for sure.
Come on, the Lions.
The Texans, I'm quite high on the Texans this year.
What?
Like they're not going to do brilliantly, and they won't get out of their division. But sorry for the swearing. They won't get out of their division. But this team, there's something there. There are some building blocks there that make me think they might do a little better than we think. And the same goes for the Giants. But if I had to pick one of the long shots to put on a Super Bowl slip, it would probably be the Carolina Panthers at 149-1, purely because defensively they're solid enough. They have Christian McCaffrey, obviously, that we all know, if you play fantasy football, brilliant running back. He could be a game changer on his day. They've got good receivers. DJ Moore, I think, is incredibly underrated still. And then they've now got a QB for the first time in ages in Baker Mayfield. Now, he's an incredibly divisive guy. You either think he's really good and being harshly judged by in Cleveland, or you think he's absolute garbage. I'm inclined to think there's still a player in there, and they might have got a bit of a steal with that trade. So if there's any one of these I think could actually pull something off here and do something pretty special, then it really does have to be the Panthers. And they play in a division with the Falcons, who are going to be awful this year, the Saints, who you got a new head coach for the first time in absolute years. We don't really know what they're going to look like this year. They probably will be half decent, but they also might, burn out. And then you've got the Buccaneers, obviously second favorites for the whole thing, but Tom Brady's not getting any younger. He was missing from training camp for, I think it's 15 days, 14 days, something like that. And no one's really said what it was. There's been rumors about marriage kind of issues and and all sorts of stuff going on. So you kind of do wonder. I wouldn't want to put any money on the Bucks. Let's leave it that way. So for me, the Panthers could be a surprise package.
Never doubt Brady. How old is he now? About 462 years old. And somehow he still turns up, takes the hits, and moves on. But Sam, brilliant little assessment there of a lot of the runners and riders involved. We're going to move on to a category you want to speak about, which is the regular season MVP. Just explain what that means for me.
So MVP, most valuable player. And this is effectively to us kind of regular football fans. This is your PFA player of the year kind of
in
award.
Regular season, though, prior to playoffs, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. But I do think they don't necessarily take that into account. Like, I don't know. I always a bit skeptical of it, but there's value to be had in this market. And it's this, unfortunately, over the last few years, it's just become a QB award. If you're not a quarterback, you just don't win this award. And there's been, in the last 10 years, I can think of twice, Aaron Donald and JJ Watt, both defensive players who've been so good that deserve the award that year, and they've not got it. So, step one, it has to be a QB, and that's fine because pretty much everybody at the top of the market is a QB. When the first non-QB is Jonathan Taylor, best price of 60-1, which kind of goes to show you just how QB orientated this will be. And there's a few names here that I think are worth betting, but let's quickly go through, I guess, the runners and riders. At the top, you've got Josh Allen of the Bills, 8-1, Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs, 9-1, Tom Brady, 9-1, Justin Herbert, talked about him with the LA Chargers, 10-1, and Aaron Rodgers, 11-1, who's won it 2 years in a row already. Of the short price guys, Justin Herbert at 10-1 is the bet there. He's improved every year since he came into the NFL. He's on a team that are trending upwards. He almost certainly will make the playoffs. And I think just no matter how good you are, no matter how bad your team is, if you're brilliant and you don't get that team to playoffs, I think there are question marks over you winning this award. I don't think it's going to happen. So Justin Herbert for me at 10-1, that's your safest bet. And then there's two more, and these are the ones I've already, put a few pennies in the bank.
You've moved the market, have you, Farley? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I've not moved the market, but a couple of deposits have been made. Lamar Jackson, 25-1 of the Ravens.
He's a great player to watch, isn't he?
He is. I think he's the most fun quarterback in the league. Like if you've not seen him, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, and he has taken this disrespectfully before, but he is almost like a running back as a quarterback. Yeah. He's incredible on his feet. The way he moves, the way he runs past people, the speed is fantastic. But unlike a running back, his arm is bloody good as well. Like the guy is a very good passer as well. Not that top tier, but he's definitely one of the best in the league regardless. And I think if I was starting a team tomorrow, franchise, he's the guy I'd want as my quarterback. I think he's a game changer. And he's 25-1. And he's won this award before. So we know he's kind of can do it. His team were so bad last year purely because they had almost a funny amount of injuries. It was just getting ridiculous. Now they're a lot healthier, and I think this guy could have an incredible season. So 25-1, a real lock for me. And a little outsider that you can get a best price of 35-1 is Trey Lance of the 49ers. He's a sophomore, it's his second year, but he wasn't brilliant last year in the chances he did get behind Jimmy Garoppolo, but now the team is his own. He's going to lead it. He's got a far better deep ball than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's better on his feet than Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's playing for a team that I think are going to be lights out this year. So for me, Trey Lance at 35-1 is good value too.
Nice one. I like it. Right, next up, a whistle-stop tour of the Rookie of the Year, offense and defense. I'd like at least one selection from each, please.
Okay, I'm going to be a little stinky on the defensive one. Okay,
you're backing a favorite here.
I'm backing the favorite. Aiden Hutchinson of the Detroit Lions, 5-1. You can get him. He is. I don't know if anyone's seen Hard Knocks who's listening. He is brilliant. He was fantastic at Michigan last year. Just an absolute powerhouse. And one of the reasons that he was drafted by the Lions is, other than being a local boy, he's he's very kind of down with culture and being a kind of guy you want in your locker room that's going to do things right. He's a leader even at his young age.
Wow.
And I think a guy like that, who's just a standout player, he's the sort of guy that despite being a rookie is going to be telling other people what to do and really inspiring confidence in them. And he's on a defense that isn't very good. So him being good will make a massive change straight away. And also he plays on the edge of the defensive line. And basically, if you play edge, you have a very good chance of winning this award. Defensive players are judged generally by sacks and tackles, and playing on the edge, you get plenty of opportunity for those. So for me, Aiden Hutchinson at 5-1, it's the bet. It is the bet.
Okay. Offense?
I'm going to give you a nice one on offense, you know.
Good. No favourite.
He's now as short as 12-1, which is annoying because I think he was 40 or 50 when I got him in after the draft.
Me that one, Sam. God.
But Damian Pierce of the Texans, he's a rookie from Florida. And what I love about him is he's got attitude. But what I love even more than that is he has opportunity. And the Texans are a terrible team, but I do think they're going to be much improved. And part of it is down to this guy. They basically, in the preseason, he was playing so well heading into that in training camp that they effectively treated him as the first string straight away. They cut Marlon Mack, who was expected to be the first string. They released him. They didn't want him. Wow. No point in having him. And as the preseason progressed, they even rested Damian Pierce. They didn't even get him on the field because they don't want to risk him before the season. And that basically, to me, tells you these guys rate what they have here. The coaches have spoke about his attitude, about the way he's been playing, and it's the most effusive praise you're ever going to hear. And at 12-1, even 12-1, when it was 40 or 50-1 earlier, I still think there's a little bit of value to be had there because he's basically the only good running back on their roster. He's just going to get opportunity. I think it's just a good bet. And the other running backs, you got Breece Hall at the Jets, who was the highest drafted back. He's 10-1, but there's good competition in at the Jets in Michael Carter. So I don't really want to take on that. And Kenneth Walker at the Seahawks, we don't know when he's going to be fit, and there's competition there, and Rashard Penny as well. So for me, Damian Pierce 12-1, it's a very good bet.
Brilliant. Right. Next up, you need to explain this one to me. Comeback player of the year. What does this get defined as? A player that's been injured or lost a bit of their career or fallen off or been on the bench and then comes back and changes club and suddenly is there and thereabouts? What's the story? Fill me in.
This is the best thing about this award. Any of those things can be true. This is a narrative award. Oh. Basically, this is your storyline of the year award. The best win I've ever had in betting was betting on this a couple of years ago. About a QB Alex Smith, who basically was injured so badly they thought he'd need to amputate his leg.
I vaguely remember this now, yeah.
Yeah, he played for Washington. Then he's like, no, I'm going to try and get back and play. And everyone was like, you can't. It took him a long time, like 2 years pretty much. And then he finally, he got back into training. And I thought, if he even steps on the field for one play, that's game over. And I think it was 30-1 at the time. Ooh. So I steamed in quite a bit, did very well. Then it kept coming down. I kept just depositing a bit more. And it came in the end. He actually played quite a few games, was relatively good, which was even better. But this just goes to show you it's all about narrative. So it's either a guy that's changed teams that we thought his career was over and he's kind of back on track. It could be a guy that's come back from injury. I think those ones generally do well, pulls on the old heartstrings. But there's a few here that I do think are quite good. And Baker Mayfield, thrown out of Cleveland, basically. Now at Carolina, he's 12-1. If he had a good season, I think he has a real chance.
How far would you say he'd have to get? How good do you think his season would have to be, or his team would have to be to get him that award, though? Like, who are they going to have to beat for people to go, do you know what, Baker's back?
I mean, if they get to the playoffs, and they're not fancy to get to the playoffs, I think he's got that award locked down as long as he's performing half well doing it. And you're going to get far better odds on him winning that award than you would on them to get the playoffs. So
Good shout.
I think that's the way to look at it. Another one I quite like is Juju Smith-Schuster. He was at the Steelers. He was just, as a rookie, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it sort of gradually declined. He became more well-known for dancing on TikTok, and people questioned if he still got it. He's now gone to Kansas City to play with the Chiefs. There's no Tyreek Hill there. Someone has to get that passing volume. And 25-1, he could have like a top 10 season, top 15 season. And if he does that, you've got to think, there's a real opportunity there as well. So those are two bets I really like on that market.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
I'd say this is a really good one to kind of, as you're following the season, if you notice any like little narratives coming up in the news or on Red Zone or wherever you consume your media, this is one to kind of keep an eye on because you can get the value.
I love it. Before we let you go, I know, and you've not been scheduled. This is not in our running order,
no.
But I want to know. Come on, you love a pre-season mad multi or request a bet style bet builder. Come on, what's the filthiest one you've got for us that you can share with the listeners that you think can keep you warm through those winter Red Zone months while we all sat there sipping a white wine or something a bit stronger through the season, watching the Red Zone as we're in the depths of winter?
I have that for you, actually. I definitely have that for you.
Here we go.
I actually mentioned this on Head in the Swivel podcast. Sorry, not Head in the Swivel podcast. The At Odds podcast a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. This is a little request to bet, and I think if you listen to that show, you'll remember. I said I found it on Sky Bet. I'm sorry, on a bookie, and it was a really good bet. And then I'd actually forgotten it was me that had requested it about a month beforehand. And I was pleased with the odds. So I'd actually bet.
Whoever's requested that as a real judge, you're thinking to yourself at the time.
This is 750-1. So this is one. Put a quid on it. Put 2 quid on it. Sod it. Put the value of a pint on it. Put your 5 quid on this. And if it comes in, you got what, like 11 grand.
You have to subscribe to the podcast forever if that happens.
Yeah. It's a treble. 4 awards as well, which we've just spoken about most of these guys. Regular season MVP, Lamar Jackson.
You love him. Perfect.
I think he's my choice anyway, so he's in there. Aiden Hutchinson, the bookie's favorite for defensive rookie of the year. He's in there. And the third one is Kenny Pickett, who's actually bookie's favorite for offensive rookie of the year. So Kenny Pickett is quarterback for the Steelers. He's not going to start the season. That'll be Mitch Trubisky, but he is expected to play at some point to kind of take that job. But in the preseason, he was fantastic, which has really filled me with confidence actually about this, because I was slightly worried maybe he wouldn't get enough game time to play. But I think the second Trubisky makes a couple of mistakes, he's hooked. Pickett's in. And I just think for 750-1, I'd be pricing this at 200. Which I know 200 is still massive, but like if you got a spare pound to chuck on something, I think
basically we're going to be cheering that every loss that the Steelers team take, aren't we? In the hope that they'll change the quarterback early doors, and I guess it would take the pressure off him if they've lost 3 in a row and the new QB comes in. Happy days.
That's it. And the rookie of the year as well in offense is quite often a quarterback. If a quarterback does well, they will almost certainly get that award. So. Again, I think the MVP award is always a QB. We have a QB there. The offensive rookie of the year, nearly always a QB. We have a QB. Defensive rookie of the year, it's quite often an edge rusher. We have an edge rusher. I do just think this is a lovely bet.
I am going to get involved. Sam, massive thank you. Don't forget, guys, do subscribe to the At Odds pod. We cover a range of sports, but NFL will be a big part of our coverage going through into winter. Sam loves it. I dabble in it, and we'll try and dig out some great value every single week. We've had some good price winners already for other sports such as soccer. We're sat on a 33-1 into 5-4 horse that will be running, hopefully, fingers crossed, in a month's time. So we do like to dig out some good value for you guys, and we just enjoy watching and betting on sport. As ever, we'd encourage you to all gamble responsibly. Big thank you to my guest, Sam Farley. Sam, where can we check out your work here, there, and everywhere on social media?
Yeah, follow me at Farley Writes on Twitter. I think it's down there if you're watching on the video. And yeah, I'm kind of doing betting tips every week for Covers and Action Network, both brilliant US sites. So yeah, check me out on Twitter and they'll be there.
And I'll even tweet my very random anytime touchdown Goliaths that one day will bring me the retirement fund I need to go live in the US and get a season ticket and follow the Miami Dolphins up and down the coasts of America. I can't wait for that day to come. Hopefully, Tua Tagovailoa can deliver this season for me. Sam, best of luck for the NFL season. We look forward to hearing your thoughts throughout the season. Give us a subscribe. Give us a thumbs up as well. Appreciate your time.